Nintendo Switch!
How's it going, everybody? It's Young here, and welcome to a Nintendo Switch event discussion. So the event happened not too long ago, and I need to talk about what just happened. A lot of interesting things, there were ups and downs, but overall, I was actually pretty satisfied with what I saw. I think they showed most of what they needed to show. So let's begin by talking about the two major pieces of details, the date and the price. I must say I was not expecting a release date that is as early as March 3rd. That is less than a month and a half. Fucking awesome. I cannot wait for this console, and I'm glad that I'm gonna get it so soon. I've already got it pre-ordered. And then there's that $300 price point, which to me, it feels like it's $50 more than what I was hoping for. I know it's reasonable enough. It's not like it's super expensive, but I know that a lot of people are gonna hold off for a bit until maybe the price drops to $250 because it's just a little too expensive. It would have been nice if they would have priced it at $250 and allowed people to buy a game to make that a $300 or a little over $300 purchase overall. So yeah, a little disappointed, but overall not too terribly dissuaded from buying the Switch. Then we have battery life. They talked a bit about it, they briefly mentioned it in one of their little videos, and they said it's between 2.5 hours to 6.5 hours of battery depending on the game that you're playing. That is a huge range. Now, for a game like Zelda Breath of the Wild or Skyrim, I'm expecting somewhere between 2.5 and 3 hours of battery. Those games need to use all the CPU and GPU capabilities of the Switch, so yeah, do expect that to have a short runtime. But if you're playing maybe like a virtual console game, I could see the console going to 5 hours and whatnot. And if you just kind of, I don't know, if you're web browsing on the Switch, if that's a thing that it'll allow you to do, which I'm assuming is going to be possible with this device, then I would imagine like a 6.5 hours battery is possible. But for the bigger, high-profile titles, just 2.5 to 3 hours is going to be what you should expect. A little disappointing perhaps, but also, let's be realistic, a console this powerful in such a small form factor, it's nothing too unexpected. This brings me to a couple of other features that they talked about during the event. One of the things that I'm really happy about is that Switch is region-free. This is fantastic. That means that if a game comes out in USA but is delayed for Europe, Europeans can choose to import the game from USA and play the game. Or if you are a Japanese individual or know Japanese and a game launches in Japan and you want to import that, you can go ahead and do that. More options is always better, and Nintendo is finally giving us the option of importing games from other regions, which is a thumbs up for me. Another feature that they showed off or briefly talked about is that up to 8 Nintendo Switches can be connected at a time for wireless local multiplayer. That is pretty insane. I'm used to 4-player local multiplayer, but this time we have 8 players, each with their individual screens. So games like Splatoon, perfect. They talked about one of the rumored features, which was the SL and SR buttons on the railing of the Joy-Con. So if you hold an individual Joy-Con sideways, you're gonna have shoulder buttons, and it essentially makes for an individual SNES style controller, except instead of a D-pad, you have an analog stick. But the addition of shoulder buttons should allow for more complex games to be able to be played in this configuration, which is always great news. Then we have some kind of intricate sensor. Apparently it detects your hand motion. It knows the difference between rock, paper, and scissors as described during the conference, and it knows the distance of your hand. Seems a bit gimmicky. I don't know what you'd use that for, but I'm interested to see what developers come up with. It's a feature that's there. You can ignore it if you don't care for it, but if developers want to make use for it for whatever reason, for something more mini-game-esque, maybe you can get something interesting out of it. Now this sensor is only on the bottom of the right Joy-Con controller. The right Joy-Con also has NFC and Amiibo support, which they briefly talked about. Obviously, they're not going to let go of the Amiibo line of products. It's been very successful. They're going to continue to release more Amiibo products down the line, no question about it. Also, motion controls and touchscreen, both features which seemed like a fairly safe bet, were officially confirmed. So the Joy-Cons themselves are kind of like Wii Remote Pluses, but much smaller in form factor. The touchscreen, it's multi-touch. They didn't specify the resolution, which was kind of weird, but I'm gonna assume 720p. They talked a bit about that HD rumble technology on each of the Joy-Cons. They specifically talked about like how if you, say, had a game that simulated ice cubes inside a glass cup, you could kind of shake it and it actually feels like there is an ice cube inside the glass cup rattling about. So that's kind of cool. Basically, if you have an HTC Vive, it's something along those lines. The controls, the feedback that they offer when you, say, draw a bow, makes that feel more realistic. That's what this rumble feature, this HD rumble, offers, and that's very neat. That's definitely something that I'm looking forward to feeling out. And speaking of Joy-Cons, I was fairly surprised by the different colors that they presented. The ones that they showed off are red and blue. Obviously, there's going to be more colors down the line, but the ones that are going to launch with the Switch are red and blue, along with just your typical gray. Definitely a pleasant surprise for those who like to customize their setup a bit. All in all, I think one of the greatest highlights of this presentation was that there was no mix-up in the messaging. They showed exactly what they needed to show. They showed how smooth it is to change between various configurations, all of the ways you can use the Joy-Cons for when you're just doing typical gaming, or if you want to do motion control centered games. There is a little bit of everything in there, and it's this culmination of, as Nintendo described it, of unique features offered by past Nintendo consoles, all kind of shoved into one, and that is actually pretty accurate when you think about it. Just all of the features that past consoles introduced for gaming, they essentially bundle that up on this console called Nintendo Switch, and the results certainly look pretty damn cool. One last feature that I want to talk about is paid online. I was hoping Nintendo wouldn't go this direction, but it also seemed inevitable. But if they're gonna do a paid online service, they better get their shit together when it comes to that online infrastructure, because it's one of the most frustrating online infrastructures that I've had the displeasure of fiddling around with. Hopefully they have a unified account system where you can keep the games that you buy, because with like the 3DS, if something happens to your 3DS, there are very few avenues to transfer the games over. You can't just sign into your account and re-download the games in another piece of hardware. You have to basically rebuy the games, because they don't keep track of that. It's ridiculous. And same with virtual console games. They don't have it so that you can just buy the game on one system and have it for all systems. It's a ripoff, it's ridiculous, so if they're gonna make us pay for online, they better get that shit together. But yeah, I mean, PlayStation's doing it, Xbox is doing it. It just seemed natural that Nintendo was gonna go for this route. And according to their website, they're gonna offer a free game every month from the virtual console library and a few other incentives. But we're gonna have to wait and see for more details. On the bright side, the paid online is going to be free up until the end of fall 2017. That's what they list on their website. So early adopters are going to be able to get a taste of what this premium subscription is like. All in all, though, I think Nintendo did a great job just showing off what the Switch is, what it does, and how it works. And I especially loved how they kept using the word Switch in these kind of cheesy but clever ways, and they kept using that satisfying clicking sound throughout the presentation. That actually stuck in my head, and if it sticks in my head, that's a very good sign. That's a sign of good marketing campaign. So kudos to them for just very clearly laying out what the Switch is all about. Let's now move on to the games, which is honestly the most important aspect of the Switch. It's got a lot of neat hardware features, but without the games, the Switch is nothing. Let's begin with Zelda Breath of the Wild. Holy freaking shit, that trailer was stunning. I almost shed a tear watching this. I've been waiting for this game for so long, and it looks like it's gonna be worth it. I found the voice acting kind of unexpected and interesting. There are multiple characters who are voiced, but it sounds good, it adds to the atmosphere, and it makes the game much more cinematic. You see a lot of interesting and emotional looking cutscenes. At one point, you see Zelda crying on Link's shoulder, which just looks awesome. There's a lot of expression on their faces, and it all just works. And I'm assuming Link will remain a silent protagonist. That's something that I believe was confirmed. So as long as that remains, I'm fine with a few additional flares here and there, like voice acting. We got to see a bunch of races like the Gorons, the Koroks, the Zoras. The music was utterly mind-blowing, and just all around an epic trailer. I cannot wait for March 3rd when the console launches. Honestly, Breath of the Wild alone is what's really convincing me to get the Switch on launch day. This idea of being able to take a game like this on the go, awesome. Next up, Super Mario Odyssey. This game, I'm really excited about. This was really unexpected. Fully open world, I was expecting that, but things like the urban hub setting was completely unexpected and out of left field. But it's a very fresh concept that I absolutely love. The levels look amazing as usual, lots of personality and quirks to them. Now, I will say that the streets, the urban streets, look kinda dull. The real humans in particular, they just stand out like a sore thumb. It's really weird. They look like kinda bootleg Sims characters. I don't know, just they look really weird. They look way out of place with this awesome render of Mario in the middle of these kinda shitty looking human NPCs. Maybe it'll grow on me once I play the game. Maybe it all kinda comes together and makes sense when you try the game out for yourself, but just that one aspect I have to criticize. It's just really weird to see Mario next to real looking humans. Just truly bizarre. Splatoon 2 was announced as well. This one wasn't unexpected at all, but it's nice to get confirmation. I myself have played Splatoon, love the game, super fun. Can't wait for Splatoon 2. They've got more hairstyles, more weapons, more swag, clothes that you can customize your character with. It's basically what a Splatoon fan would want from a second game, from a sequel. I was also happy to see Xenoblade Chronicles 2. There were rumors that Monolith was working on something, and this game is it. It looks gorgeous, love the art style, and I'm assuming that the gameplay will be very similar to Xenoblade Chronicles and Chronicles X, and that's great because the combat system of those two games I absolutely love. The one thing that I hope they fix with this game is that they make side quests less grindy and less just tedious. I hate the side quests in both Chronicles and Chronicles X. Some of them are interesting, but most of them are a chore. They have to eliminate that aspect and make fewer side quests that are each more interesting in their own right. Then there's Fire Emblem Warriors. Not too hyped about that one, but it's neat for those who like warrior-style games, as well as Fire Emblem. New Shin Megami Tensei was very exciting for me. At first, when I saw that Atlas logo pop up, I thought it was going to be Persona 5, so that was a bit of a letdown, but a new Shin Megami Tensei game is still pretty exciting. I played through Shin Megami Tensei 4 for 3DS. That game's phenomenal. So I can't wait to see what Atlas can do with the powerful hardware of the Switch. Skyrim. We can't end this video without mentioning Skyrim. It's been confirmed for the Switch, no surprises there. The game, from what I saw, did look a little graphically inferior running on the Switch, but that's not all that unexpected when you consider that this Switch console is so small compared to like Xbox One and PlayStation 4. For a portable console, it looks pretty damn good, but I don't really mind the graphical downgrade because it's still Skyrim looking pretty good, pretty decent, running on a portable console that you can take anywhere. Skyrim on the go, that's a beautiful concept right there that I'm all in for. EA was also on board. You know, if you like their games, FIFA, NBA 2K are coming, and a lot of it seems like they have some pretty decent third-party support, but it was also disappointing to not see games like Mass Effect Andromeda for Switch. But who knows, maybe third parties will kind of dive into the hardware of the Switch, see what it's capable of, and if the console sells well, maybe we'll see more AAA titles being ported over, even if it comes at the sacrifice of some graphical fidelity. And the last two games that I want to talk about are 1-2 Switch and ARMS, which are basically tech demos for the Nintendo Switch. They're kind of like the equivalent of Wii Sports and Nintendo Land. What Wii Sports was to Wii and what Nintendo Land was to Wii U is what 1-2 Switch and ARMS is to Nintendo Switch. They look pretty fun, not gonna lie. I don't know if I'm gonna shell out cash to buy them. I am more interested in games like Zelda, but they look neat for those who want to have just some type of party game to have around to show off your new console and whatnot. So those were the major games that were announced that drew my attention. I think there was a reel showing off a couple more things, but you can just watch that for yourself. It's out there in the internet. What I do want to talk about, though, is games that we didn't see that was expected to show up during the presentation. Pokémon Stars is a big one. A lot of people were thinking this would be the perfect opportunity to announce a new Pokémon game, but that didn't happen. I was kind of surprised, but I think that a lot of these games that we didn't see, they're being saved to be shown for E3 2017. So I think Pokémon Stars is coming to E3 2017. I think Beyond Good and Evil 2 is going to be announced at E3 2017. I was once again surprised that Beyond Good and Evil 2 wasn't announced during the Switch presentation, but if they want to save it for another event, that's cool too. One last major game that we didn't see was Mother 3. This one was rumored to be announced in this presentation, so its absence certainly surprised me, but once again, maybe they're waiting until E3 2017. At the very least, I have no doubt that they are working towards porting over Mother 3 to Virtual Console. It's just one of those games that many Nintendo fans have wanted. A lot of reports seem to corroborate that Nintendo is indeed working on a Mother 3 Virtual Console adaptation. A lot of people will be pleased. I see no reason why Nintendo wouldn't approve this project and release it for us to enjoy. A couple more things that we didn't see that are not as gaming related. The user interface. We got a very brief glimpse of it, but they didn't dive too heavily into it. They didn't put an emphasis on it, which was a bit surprising. And in turn, we didn't get to see if the Switch had any additional features beyond gaming, like if you could use the Switch for certain things that you might do on your smartphone and tablet, like web browsing, streaming some video like Netflix, opening up some ebooks and reading those on the go, and whatnot. Hopefully, the Switch will be able to do more than just game. I think it would appeal to more people if it had additional functionalities, and it would just make the device more convenient, and it would make people just want to bring it around more if they could do other things with it. But at the end of the day, it is primarily a gaming machine, so I wouldn't fault Nintendo if they didn't add additional features, but with how powerful the Switch is, it feels like a missed opportunity to not have some apps on it, if you will. So that pretty much summarizes what was shown at the event, but here is what they didn't tell you, and this is a bit bullshit. This is the ugly part of what was otherwise a pretty decent presentation. Accessories. Pro Controller has been officially announced to be $70. $70 for an extra controller. That is bullshit. That is straight up bullshit. I'd be fine with a $300 price if they at least had the decency to price the accessories decently, but nope, I think they're really trying to milk us for cash by making us buy all these extra accessories that are way too expensive. Pro Controller, $70. A pair of Joy-Cons, $80. What the fuck? That is insane. $80. And it doesn't stop there. The Joy-Con charging grip, $30. $30 is what the Joy-Con price or the Pro Controller price should be, not the price of a shell for the controller. The Nintendo Switch dock set, $90. 90 freaking dollars for the dock, an HDMI cable, and an AC adapter. Fucking ridiculous. They need to reduce these prices before people go crazy. I can understand why people will be pissed at this. Like, it's enough that you're pricing a console that's weaker than the competition at $300. But charging this kind of premium for these products, it seems a little shady to me. And while I will admit that the Joy-Cons do pack a lot of technology in them, $80 is ridiculous. That is unprecedented for additional controllers. And add on top of that, the fact that you will eventually have to pay for online. And these prices it begins to stack up, and it starts to look a bit like a ripoff. Like, I'm still pre-ordering the Switch for $300, but I feel like if they price the Switch at $250, they could get away with this a little more. But pricing it at $300 and then additional costs for this kind of premium price? Come on, Nintendo, you gotta be a little more reasonable than that. My plan originally was to buy the Switch, a game like Zelda, and an additional controller, a Pro controller specifically, but after seeing these prices, I'm just getting the Switch and a game. That's all I can afford. I mean, it's just too much. I'm not gonna keep throwing money away for these rip-off prices. So that's the ugly part of everything that I saw. But beyond this, if we look past the shitty accessories pricing, I was pretty excited to see what the Nintendo Switch is capable of. I was excited to see games like Zelda, the new Mario game. I think this console has a lot of potential. There's a lot of positive vibes and feedback from what I'm seeing. And that's just something that wasn't the case for Wii U, which had a lot of negativity and skepticism behind it. There is still some of that with the Switch, a little bit of that skepticism, especially with how much Wii U bombed, but there is an optimism as well behind all that is uplifting. The third-party support is looking pretty good. The fact that Bethesda, who usually never support Nintendo, the fact that they're willing to support this console and compliment it so much is certainly uplifting. So all in all, the Switch presentation, it had some awkward moments, but they did a good job in showcasing all of the Switch features that they needed to show off. They made it very clear what this console is, what it does, how it works, what it's supposed to do, how it looks like when using it on a daily life basis. They showed off some pretty compelling games, and really I think that's for the most part what they needed to do. Perhaps a bit more clarity on the launch titles would have been nice, because we still don't know when Mario Odyssey is coming out. We don't even have a release window for a lot of these titles. But other than that, overall, I'm pretty excited. But I think the real test for Nintendo will come when journalists and the public get to try out the console for themselves and give their impressions. And that's going to come to us over the coming few days. So until then, let us know in the comments below what your impressions were of the presentation. Were you disappointed? Was it a mixed bag? Or were you pleased with what you saw? What games are you excited for? What features did you like or dislike? Let us know in the comments below. And to be further updated on all things Nintendo Switch, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.